Invariably, any one of us that opposes the death penalty is met with a response at some point that you'd feel differently if it happened to someone that you love. I agree with that. I did feel differently when my wife was murdered, and I asked folks, can we talk about it?
What I really resonated with is someone was murdered as a retaliatory killing for my son's murder. And I thought about that mother and about those brothers and sisters and those grandparents and possibly children of the victim. And I didn't want anyone to have to feel the way that I felt.
I said to myself, if I forgive him, does that mean I won't be able to cry and miss my father? If I forgive him, is that saying it's okay for what he did? Am I excusing or condoning that act? And I had to really sit down and say to myself, no, Suzanne, it is wrong. It is wrong, not just for you, it's wrong for James Bernard Campbell, and your father probably forgave him before he took his last breath. I'm sure of that.
Speakers from the Journey of Hope are persons who have experienced violence and have chosen to move toward healing and reconciliation rather than revenge. Since 1993, they have been sharing that message, urging society to take the same path from violence to healing. One step in that journey is to end the use of the death penalty. The organization is led by family members of murder victims, joined by those who have a loved one who has been sentenced to death, and also by persons who have received a death sentence, but were later found to be innocent of the crime. They have spoken in schools, universities, congregations, and community groups around the world and in 40 U.S. states. Here's a sampling of the message they bring.
My younger sister, Jennifer, was murdered in our hometown of Cleveland, Ohio in 1997. I'm in the demographic that many prosecutors and attorneys believe would be supportive of capital punishment as a remedy, if you will, for people like me who've lost loved ones to murder, as a way for us to arrive at closure and wholeness. But along with my Journey of Hope colleagues and friends, we know that first and foremost, there is no such thing as closure for any of us. We will always experience pain and grief as we reflect on our loved ones who were murdered. And also, there's just no way the taking of another life, even if the person was actually guilty, does not help us achieve wholeness or any kind of closure, and does not satisfy our grieving.
As a young woman, Dina Windle was kidnapped and raped, and would likely have been murdered had she not found a way to escape. Over time, she came to forgive the perpetrator and advocated clemency in his case.
It was a long journey. It doesn't happen overnight. It didn't for me. It's different for people. For me personally, it was 20 years. It was 20 years of trying to figure out just why I'm angry at people all the time. God has forgiven me, so in turn, I needed to forgive Marcel in what had happened to me. And I was able to just realize that this is another human being, that the act itself, I can hate the act. I can't hate the human being.
My story began in 2001 when my oldest child was falsely accused and wrongfully convicted of murder for hire. He turned himself in, hoping to clear his name of the murder, and in the mess of the court system, got convicted and sentenced to die for a crime he didn't commit. Wow. He was barely 20 years old. Now, I've always believed the death penalty was wrong, but I didn't do anything because it didn't pertain to me. And then when it came in my door and threatened the life of my oldest child and changed our lives forever, I knew I had to do something about it. It gives a purpose to my pain, telling this story. If I can open one heart and change one mind, or get one child who I speak to. I love talking to high school and college kids because that was the age my kids were. And if I can get them to understand that the choices that they make every day not only affect themselves, but affect their families, that gives me purpose.
My message is how I am clergy too. So how I, as clergy, had a really bad attitude after my son was murdered. Vengeance and, wanting the person to die for about 2 weeks. I was always against the death penalty except for that 2-week period. And after that, I thought, I don't want any other mother or anyone to go through what I went through. I still experience the pain. I drive 2 hours back and forth to work, and when I think of my son, I'm just, crying all the way through. But it's not going to take away my pain. In fact, it would increase my pain to know that someone died.
Suzanne Bossler and her father were attacked in the parsonage next door to the church he served as pastor in Miami, Florida. Both suffered multiple knife wounds. She managed to call 911 before passing out, but her father died before help could arrive. In the years that followed, Suzanne worked hard to see that the man who attacked them did not receive a death sentence. She joined with others to form the Journey of Hope organization.
I just started opening up and not feeling lost and feeling like I'm the only one, and showing that it is okay to say your opinion about the death penalty and why you're against it, no matter what. We share our stories not to go there and say, I'm right and you're wrong. We go there to say, here's our stories. Here's how we came to where we are today. And go ahead and think about it, talk about it, debate about it.
My wife and I were shot and left for dead during an armed robbery at my place of business in Enterprise, Alabama. 16 months later, the nightmare exploded in that I was arrested and charged with the capital murder of my wife. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I knew it was happening, but it was unbelievable that it was 7 years until I was exonerated. So I understand that an innocent man or woman can be convicted of something they didn't do in this country. It happened to me. I understand the feelings of hatred, of desire for revenge and retribution. Those are normal, valid human responses. We're entitled to our feeling. However, there's a big difference between feeling and doing. At least there better be. There needs to be.
Pastors who have invited Journey of Hope speakers to the congregations share the impact on their church members.
It was personal. It was, this is what our family went through. This is how it happened. This is what's going on. And how it continues to affect us, right? How it continues to affect our family. It wasn't, well, here are some statistics, and here's this. No, it was, this is what's happening to us.
It's the moral aspect of being against the death penalty is reconfirmed every time a person tells a story. And the folks who are able to forgive someone who murdered someone important to them gives me joy that they actually proved that it can be done.
A college professor in Kansas invited a Journey of Hope speaker to his ethics class.
I wanted my students to hear someone that they had never heard before, someone that they didn't even know existed. And they heard her. Some of their lives were changed. They certainly had never heard someone like Suzanne talk about forgiving someone who had tried to kill them.
A high school teacher in Cincinnati invited speakers to his class and found the students profoundly impacted.
They talked about it in every single class that we had. The next day, it wasn't something I had to bring up. And as I said, I had them for another, 2 years or year and a half, and they continued to refer to the unbelievable stories. And it was something about the amazing mercy of the people, because all of them didn't seem bitter about the experience, the terrible circumstances that they left with. That didn't define who they were, and it was special for the kids. I think for the 45 minutes that they spoke, you could have heard a pin drop. I think no matter what a school feels about, the death penalty or what the students feel about it, it's special to hear from people who actually experienced it. And I've been teaching for 26 years. It was one of the most powerful speakers that we've ever had in my class.
Speakers from the Journey of Hope do not come to present strident political arguments. They speak of their own experiences and invite conversation.
I think storytelling is the salt that can melt the ice of convictions toward the death penalty. I think people sometimes haven't really thought about the issue.
I don't have all of the answers, but I certainly have some. And being willing to talk about these things, we believe, is helpful. It gets it out on the table. Let's talk about it.
If you would like to schedule a speaker from the Journey of Hope for your classroom, organization, congregation, or other group, contact the organization by email, telephone, or through their website.